Hello everyone, this is Leah Whitehorse, and in this recording I'm going to be talking about Venus retrograde for 2025. So firstly, let's get some dates out of the way first and foremost. I will put all of these below so that you have them there for reference as well. So Venus entered the shadow zone on the 28th of January 2025. She will station retrograde at 10 degrees 50 minutes of Aries on the 2nd of March. The midpoint of the retrograde will come on the 23rd of March when the Sun will conjoin Venus at 2 degrees 39 minutes of Aries. On the 27th of March, Venus will re-enter Pisces in retrograde motion. On the 13th of April, Venus will station direct on 24 degrees 37 minutes Pisces. Venus will re-enter Aries in direct motion on the 30th of April, and then on the 16th of May, Venus will exit the shadow zone. So the entire cycle lasts from the 28th of January through to the 16th of May, but the critical period is the 2nd of March through to the 13th of April, not least because we're also going to have a Mercury retrograde around the same time taking place during this Venus retrograde over the same degrees. I will be doing a separate piece about that as well. So it's just going to compound all of the messages that are going to come through this particular retrograde. If you have listened to my March forecast, you will know that generally speaking, March is just a wild month, astrologically speaking. There's kind of everything that you could imagine going on. But here we're just going to focus on this Venus retrograde. Venus is a planet that is associated with love, relationships, harmony, what's going on in the heart, the things that we are attracted to, the people we are attracted to. So when Venus goes retrograde, then like any retrograde, we are asked to go within. We turn this energy inwards, and we need to reflect upon, re-evaluate what we feel, what we think, what we know about our relationships and what we value in life. Venus speaks of our actual values, the philosophical values that we hold. So we're kind of looking at all of that too. What is most important to me? What do I want to invest in? Who do I want to invest in? Who or what do I love? Do I love myself? Venus in Aries, remembering that Aries is a fire sign. Because Venus is going to move back into Pisces during this retrograde, it's like we're getting two halves and two different styles of a retrograde. They're going to feel different because we have different elements at play. Typically, Aries is a sign that wants to have everything done yesterday. It is an impatient sign. It's a very active sign. It's fire. Think of if you light a fire on dry kindling, how quickly that takes hold. That is a wonderful example of Aries energy and how fire constantly needs something to consume. In other words, we need to feel as though there's something that we can do. We can channel our energies. But when we have a retrograde in Aries, then again, it's about going inwards. We're not going anywhere. We're going backwards. And that can be enormously frustrating. But Venus says, I would like you to explore. Do you really love yourself? Are you truly following what's in your heart? Do you know what you're attracted to? Is who and what you're attracted to good for you? Is this good for me? That's one of the questions I think Venus retrograde in Aries is going to bring up. Is this good for me? And so, yes, we might feel as though we've run out of motivation, the joy has gone out of it, or whatever it was that we were chasing because we were attracted to it, suddenly it feels like we don't want to do that anymore. So Venus retrograde in Aries, the initial part of this transit, might sort of feel a little bit like somebody's put the brakes on and we're having to take a really good look at where we are. The Sabian symbol of the station retrograde is the ruler of a nation. I'm going to say right away that the Sabian symbols for all the most important points of this Venus retrograde are extraordinarily synchronous with events that are going on in the outer world and other energies at play. So we might literally be exploring issues connected to a ruler of a nation. Certainly right now, as I'm recording, 17th of February, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with rulers of nations because there's been a great big meeting happening and now another meeting happening in Europe. And then there's Trump talking about meeting up with Putin. And, then there's Zelensky, who's obviously not very happy about all of that. So the whole conversation is all about the rulers of nations, not just one ruler. But we could say the rulers of nations, but one ruler in particular, obviously Trump in this case, because of the huge changes that he's making, it's thrown everything into chaos. So the ruler of a nation Sabian symbol may well speak about him particularly, or it might just be symbolic of the fact that a lot of the story is focused on what our rulers are going to do. Now, this also, of course, is applying to us personally. So our personal story, the ruler of the nation, well, that's you. You are the ruler of your world, your country. You are sovereign unto yourself. And so the ruler of a nation, Sabian symbol, is a very strong symbol. So that kind of makes me feel like there is a story here about we are only as strong as what's going on in our hearts. And so if the heart is strong, in other words, if you have conviction, like, I love this person, I love this place, I love this country, I love whatever it is, and I'm committed to that, then everything is in its place and I can be sovereign in my world. So there's something about that with this Sabian symbol being in play. As Venus goes backwards, 11th of March, she will bump into Mercury. Mercury is still direct at this point in time. There's only going to be one connection between the two of them. But we are going to get a little conversation here about what is going on with our values and our relationships. Maybe we need to have a conversation about our lover or with our lover, or we're talking about money, or we need to bring heart and mind together because that's what this is about. Maybe that's been the problem, that the head's saying one thing, the heart's saying the other, but now they have to come together. On the 21st of March, Venus will form a sextile to Pluto. So this is interesting. We get a boost because Pluto is super powerful. So we get a boost of energy here that invites us to invest in our future, in the changes that we want to make. Pluto in Aquarius is making us aware that there are changes afoot. There are big changes in the world, in society, in our social circles. There are huge changes that are happening here, and we need to get on board with it. But we also need to figure out, well, what is it that I want here? What do I need? Again, what is my heart telling me that I can commit to here? If I put my heart and soul into this, the thing that I have conviction about, then things can change. Then I will feel more empowered. When we work from the heart, Venus, we are then empowered. Pluto, we have an invitation, the sextile, to see this, to know this, to feel this. We then have the midpoint of the Venus retrograde. This is on the 23rd of March. It will happen at 2 degrees 39 minutes of the sign Aries. The Sabian symbol of this degree is the cameo profile of a man, suggesting the shape of his country. So again, we have something about a man and his country, the ruler of a nation, and then we have this profile of a man suggesting the shape of his country. We're really doubling down on this story that there are things going on with our leaders, maybe one leader in particular, that is going to perhaps affect all of us in different ways. Coming back down to the personal meaning of this, the cameo profile of a man suggesting the shape of his country means that we can be very influenced by what goes on around us. We can be very influenced by our culture, our ways, our customs, our folklore, our history, the land that we live on. And that can be a wonderful, wonderful thing to think of the culture that we come from, the roots that we come from. And it shapes us. We are shaped by the place that we live. But taken in shadow, that can also end up being very negative. So we can end up, with sort of very nationalist kind of, I think that's the word, sort of nationalistic kind of ways of being. That's like, my country's better than yours, my place is better than yours. We start to get all sort of defensive about it, and we can start to see how this can sort of bleed into conflicts and this kind of thing. One of the issues that this Sabian symbol might bring up is about what we identify with, because clearly the symbol, the character in the symbol identifies with his country so much that he actually looks like it. And so that is also a very sort of subtle reminder that the things that we truly focus on, the things that we give our energy to and we give our heart to, that shapes us. So the things that you identify with shape you. And so as Venus is retrograde, it's important to just ask the question, is this really expressive of who I am as a person? Does this really say something about me? What does this say about me? What does it say about you if you like certain sports or you like certain TV shows or stories? What are those characters about? What does it mean to you? And what does it say about you? And it's not about beating yourself over the head, Aries rules the head. It's more about just gently questioning, is this the image that I want to present? Or do I need to change here? Am I not following my heart? So we get some kind of illumination because she's at this star point. I mentioned in my March forecast that Venus repeats her cycles. So this repetition happens roughly every 8 years, and every time the Sun and Venus meet, they create this star point. Again, I will show it on the screen here so you can see what I mean, and also show you the beautiful mandala that's created by the orbit of Venus. But we can look back at these times when Venus was sort of traversing the same degrees in the retrograde and get a sense of what might be coming for us. Now, as I said before, it's not that exactly the same circumstances are repeating, because there's always other transits going on at the same time. So there might be a period of time where you've got a Venus retrograde in Aries and, a really big event happened, but you also happen to have Pluto square to your Sun at the same time. So it's going to have a different quality to it. But some of the underlying lessons from Venus specifically should be kind of evident over time. So just to give you some dates, I gave you a few in the March forecast. I'll go a little bit further back this time. So we had April 1985, April 1993, March 2001, March 2009, March 2017, and now we come to this one. So all of those were around similar, not exactly the same, similar degrees. They were all taking place in Aries. So just have a reflect back, look through your diary, see what was going on with relationships, with money, with values, the things that you thought were important to you. If you know your chart, think about what was happening in that area of your life, because that's going to be reactivated. On the 27th of March, Venus retrograde will go back into Pisces. So now we start to get a much more fluid, soft, sensitive, sweet quality. Venus is exalted in Pisces. She loves to be in Pisces. After all, Pisces is limitless. And if we think about it, love is unlimited. We can love many, many, many different people. You know, if you have children or pets, you love all of them. And there is no end or limit to that love. So unconditional love is a quality of Venus in Pisces, which is going to be amplified because as soon as Venus returns to Pisces, she goes straight into Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. So this is incredibly sensitive. So we might be very, very conscious of what we're missing. This is like yearning. There's a real yearning that comes from Venus conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And because Venus is going backwards, yes, we might be looking back to the past and thinking about old flames and old loves and old places and times when we were happy. And that can be wonderful. It can be, really sweet and nostalgic. And it's good to tap back into those memories. But it can also be overwhelming and we can end up feeling really disillusioned with what we have, thinking that the past was better and it's never going to be good again. And, all of this kind of stuff. So we just have to watch where we're going, so that we don't trip up with Venus conjunct Neptune. Lovely as it is, I'm just thinking about it being in retrograde motion. We then have Venus conjunct the North Node on the 1st of April. So now we get a signal to the heart, directly to the heart. This is where we need to go. This is where I need to go. This is what is calling me. This is what's in my heart. And I feel it because it's Pisces. I feel it. And I know that this is something that means something to me, meaning from Pisces. Whatever it is that's in my heart, I know it means something. And then on the 6th of April, Venus forms a trine to Mars. It's just a one-time gig. But of course, these are the lovers of the zodiac. Venus is about what's going on in the heart and relationships. Mars is the passion. Mars is the action. Mars is the let's do something. So we have this signal direct to the heart. I want to say almost like direct from the gods because of the conjunction to Neptune as well. Something comes through that then encourages us to take some kind of action. Now, because Venus is retrograde, obviously, I would suggest maybe not taking any action that is, you can't undo it, that's a really big thing. Maybe just kind of hold that thought. But there is the push to recognize that there is something you can do to change circumstances, to bring a dream alive, to act on what is in your heart. That is a possibility with Venus trine to Mars. And it also tells us that, if you focus on what's in your heart, then you can bring stuff to you. You can draw it to you. You can attract what you want in your life. Venus trine Mars. On the 7th of April, then Venus will bump into Saturn. Now, this is actually the second of 3. So was the conjunction to Neptune in the North Node, by the way. So this story with Saturn actually began even before the shadow zone period. Venus was conjunct Saturn on the 19th of January. So you might find there's something that was going on around that time is now revisited. Maybe there's been something going on here that has put a wall up in the heart. Venus conjunct Saturn can mean that love in some way is restricted or restrained or held back. There's a boundary, there's a block, there's a wall, there's a stop, Saturn. But with Venus now going back to Saturn, it's like she's come back to old father time. Saturn is also about karma, Lord of karma. So we're getting Venus conjunct the North Node, karma, and then Venus conjunct Saturn, karma. So heart karma, love, and karma. What is going on in the heart? What have you been resisting, says Saturn to Venus. What have you been resisting? Have you been resisting your heart's calling? Now we start to see where we have put up these blocks and where we can take responsibility for this and commit to the long term, to the path of the heart, Venus conjunct Saturn. 8th of April, then Venus will form a sextile to Uranus, because now Saturn and Uranus are forming a sextile to one another. So Venus sextile to Uranus, just tapping into that energy, which is all about kind of slow change, really. Saturn is about stability, but Uranus is the opposite. Uranus is kind of, let's change things, let's shake it all up. We need to free up resources. We need to free up time, energy, money, so that you can follow your heart. So now we get an invitation to look at where we can shake things up so that we can commit to this new calling. On the 13th of April, that is when Venus will station direct. And so now we get a turnaround. It's in Pisces. We get a turnaround, a feeling of the waters are shifting, the tide is changing. And we start to feel as though now we can start working on whatever it was we identified during Venus retrograde. We can start to move towards that which we love, or we can start to create a life that we are going to love. The Sabian symbol, remembering the other two symbols, we had the ruler of a nation, and then we had the cameo profile of a man suggesting the shape of his country. Now we have a religious organization succeeds in overcoming the corrupting influence of perverted practices and materialized ideals. I also want to mention that Linda Hill's version of this Sabian symbol is the purging of the priesthood. So either way we look at it, we see that this symbol is speaking about organizations that have a conviction, they have a belief, a very strong belief that this is the right way, and this is the way that we need to move forwards. And these practices, these ways, these peoples, these customs, these things over here, these are wrong. And we are going to get rid of that. We are going to overcome. We're going to overcome the corrupting influences. So this is a bit of a difficult Sabian symbol, because positively, of course, it can mean rooting out that which is unpleasant, uncomfortable, unwanted, not good for us. So on a personal level, it feels as though this story of Venus retrograde is going to lead us all to a point in our own personal lives where we've rooted out the things that aren't good for us. We've realized we're sovereign. We've realized that the things that we've invested our heart in are shaping us. We've had a look at whether we like the shape of things and the shape of ourselves. We've kind of looked at, do I identify with all of this or not? Figured out what's good for us. And now we've got rid of the bad stuff. That's kind of the underlying story for our own personal astrology. But on the world stage, it feels like this Venus retrograde is really going to talk about how one ruler is so identified with their country or their mission that they are going to maybe override other places or try to take action that is under the guise of, we're getting rid of the bad stuff. We're getting rid of the bad people. We're getting rid of the bad things. And because this Sabian symbol speaks of a religious organization succeeding, it's really going to be about belief. It's not necessarily about what's actually right or wrong. It's about religious belief or philosophical beliefs. And so what one person might believe is corrupt and perverted and wrong, another person might see as absolutely nothing wrong with it, can't understand why anyone would be worried about it, kind of thing. And so this is why this symbol can work in very positive and very negative ways. And so we'll just have to watch and wait and see how things unfold. But I think the most important thing really is to recognize in our own lives what is good for me and where might I have been resisting what's actually going on in my heart. Because once we are aligned to that heart energy, then we can live the life that we love. And if we live the life that we love, like truly love, not just kind of like, hey, I can buy lots of things and I can have all this material stuff to keep me safe. And when we're living a life that is truly an investment from the heart, it isn't about the material stuff. Obviously, that's not irrelevant. We do need to be able to pay bills and keep a roof over our head and all those kinds of things. That kind of goes without saying. But when we are aligned to living a life that we love, then we're also in harmony with ourselves and our surroundings. And we want to preserve that sense of harmony and peace in our surroundings. And so imagine if we were all in that situation where we all found the path of the heart, if we all had the courage to follow the path of the heart, then maybe this world would be a very different place, and maybe we would not need to overcome other people who have different kinds of practices to us. Maybe it would just be about seeing and appreciating and being comfortable with our differences. So this concludes my exploration of Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces for 2025. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please do click a like and subscribe. I will put all of my links below. If you would like to hear more from me, please do check out my website, my Substack, Patreon. I will see you again soon. And in the meantime, I wish you many blessings on your path.